The last couple of videos I've talked about yo-yo decluttering and wanting to break the cycle of clutter, declutter, reclutter, re-declutter. And the way to break that is to change my habits. Because if I keep dealing with stuff the same way I always have, I'm going to get the same results I've always gotten. I've also shared my realization of how I always discount myself, feeling like I have to buy things at a discount, and how that's a reflection of my low self-worth, that I don't feel I'm worth full price. Lately, I've been noticing this more. Again, I'm not saying I want to spend indiscriminately, but I don't want to feel like I'm only worth discounted prices. I know I'm repeating a lot of the same stuff lately, but I think it's really important. Discount means to reduce the usual price for something, but it also means to decide that something or someone is not worth consideration or attention. For too long, I have been discounting myself, denying myself comforts and conveniences because I don't think I'm worth it. I believe hoarding behavior is a coping mechanism for underlying issues. It serves a purpose in the short term, acquiring that cool item or repairing that broken thing that someone else would just send to a landfill. Makes me feel good in the moment, but in the long term really hurts me. And no one is doing this to me but myself. No one is forcing me to follow these rules or carry out these behaviors. So I'm determined to heal what needs healing within me to stop feeling these behaviors. Working on increasing my feelings of self-worth has made a noticeable difference in how I feel about myself and how I treat myself. For one thing, I can now honestly say that I don't hate myself over my hoarding issues anymore. I don't like the hoarding behavior. I still want to change it. But that utter self-loathing I used to have over my entire being because of it has definitely diminished. And that's so important because I'm not going to hate myself into better behavior. The more I hate myself for the way I behave, what that actually does is create more of an unmet need and more fuel to soothe myself through acquiring things, saving things, repairing things. I'm going to share something that happened the other day at the grocery store. Every other morning, I make pancakes for breakfast. I went to the store to get more buttermilk, and they were out of the brand I usually buy. They only had a more expensive brand that cost $2 more. This has happened in the past, and I've always walked away. No pancakes tomorrow for me, and I headed towards the exit. But this time, I chose to go back and get the more expensive buttermilk. I thought to myself, am I going to deny myself yummy pancakes because I don't think I'm worth an extra $2? Good food is one of the joys in my life. A lot of people might think, wow, that was kind of a silly and insignificant story. But for me, it was significant because it's a big shift in how I view myself and how I treat myself. Each morning before I get out of bed, the first thing I do when I wake up is deep breathing. When I started this routine, I just focused on each breath in and each breath out. Each breath in and each breath out. Now I've added something to that. With each breath in, I think of something I want more of in my life. And with each breath out, I think of something I want less of in my life. So I breathe in hope and breathe out despair. I breathe in progress and breathe out perfection. I breathe in flexibility and breathe out rigidity. Every time prior when my usual brand was out of stock, I walked away because of a rigid rule I created for myself. No expensive buttermilk for you. The brand I buy being out of stock was an exception. It's okay to be flexible and buy the more expensive brand if that's all that's available. In my conference presentation material, I went into detail about how negative emotions narrow our thinking and we zoom in on what's wrong due to our negativity bias. I've been out of work for quite a while, so money is a concern. But if I'm constantly worried about every penny, afraid I'm going to run out of money, I'm coming from a place of fear, a very negative emotion, right? And then my reaction to seeing only the more expensive buttermilk in stock is, oh no, that brand is $2 more than I usually pay. That's too much money for buttermilk. I can't afford that. But being mindful, being aware of what I was feeling, enabled me to reflect on my reaction and question it. Being aware that I was feeling worried about money enabled me to step back and broaden my perspective. Thinking back on my life, I've always worried about money. My father had hoarding issues, and he also worried about money. I actually used to joke about being a cheap date because my father taught me to read menus from right to left, looking at the price first. I'll have the, spaghetti and meatballs. In a previous video, I talked about doing the price per unit math. That's usually led to me buying a larger quantity than I actually needed just because it costs less per ounce. With the buttermilk, I did some price per unit math, but the difference this time was that instead of looking only at how much more it would cost me per unit, I also thought about what I'd be getting for that extra cost. The bottle of buttermilk makes 8 mornings worth of pancakes. That's a measly 25 cents extra a morning to make myself a nice breakfast, to be kind to myself, to look after my well-being. I'd say that's a damn good bargain. I also made sure to hit the record button in my brain. This feels good to not be so rigid in my thinking. It feels nice to take care of myself and not constantly restrict myself from comforts in life. And even the next morning, I'm glad I bought the expensive buttermilk because I'm enjoying these delicious pancakes.